The road appeared approximately in 2009, and now it's 10 o'clock in the morning and sets at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's it. Yes, and it doesn't mean that there is sunshine, it's just daylight. And can you guess how much sunshine do we have in December? 2 hours. Hours. Yes, that's little, so it's very little. And now we are approaching one of our very important squares. This square is called Victory Square. And now we are approaching another square of our city, also connected to Soviet times. This square will be on the right hand side, and this square is called Moskovskaya Square. It's on the right now, and you can see there is some festival here. That's why you see there are some fire brigades, there are policemen here, and also in the middle of the square you can see a monument to Lenin. This is one of the very few monuments to Lenin left in the city, because quite a lot of monuments were just destroyed. And this one is left, and I personally think it's very good because it's also our history. And we are now driving along one of the longest avenues of St. Petersburg. The name of it is Moskovsky Avenue, way to Moscow, because this road leads to the road to Moscow. So that's why it's called like this. Because you see, in Russia we don't say Moscow, we say Moskva. Along this avenue there are buildings that were made in the 20th century in the so-called Stalin architecture style. Stalin, yeah, you know. And so these kinds of buildings were typical for the architecture of that period, so 1930s, 1950s. These buildings have very nice facades, right? So they are quite beautiful. There are some columns. You see there are even some towers. You see the building in front of us, there is a tower, there are some sculptures. But on the other side, they are not beautiful at all. They are very simple on the outside, in the inner yards. And only the facades are very beautiful and very nice. To your left, a new building. This one is the building of the library. This library is the Public National Library. To your right, you can see one of our parks. This park is called Victory Park. Here in St. Petersburg, we have a lot of outside skating rinks. The original name of this avenue was the road to Tsarskoye Selo, because it was the main road to one of the summer residences. Then it was called Balkan Avenue, it was called International Avenue, it was even called Stalin Avenue from 1950 to 1956. It was called Stalin Avenue. And from 1956 it got the name Moskovsky, and now we know it like this, Moskovsky. Along this avenue there are 10 metro stations, so that's a lot. And this fact makes this avenue very convenient for living here. This building was made in 1920s, right after the revolution. Yes, the revolution was in 1917, and this building was made in 1920s. You see, it's circular, and it was made for the municipal center. Nowadays, it's still used as the administrative center. The gate that is coming in front of us is under restoration now, but still a few words about this gate. This gate was made in the 19th century. It was made to commemorate Russia's victory in one of the wars. Russia always led lots of wars, and so it was one of them. And the whole gate was made of cast iron, and that was the biggest cast iron structure in the world. Where we are now is called Moskovskie Varota, which means Moscow Gate. This monastery was made in the 19th century. The person who started this monastery was a young lady. She sold everything she had, so all the money went to her monastery, to this monastery. How many rivers and canals do we have in St. Petersburg, all in all? Do you have any guesses? We have about 80 rivers and canals, 80. So that's a lot, actually. So this canal is called Obvodny Canal or Bypass Canal, and we have 42 islands in St. Petersburg. So we have about 80 rivers and canals, 42 islands, and what do you think? How many bridges do we have in the city?
200, 400. This is like Venice.
Well, sometimes, you know, our city is called the Northern Venice, but the prototype for our city was Amsterdam. When Peter the Great traveled in Europe, he visited Amsterdam, and he just loved this city, and he wanted to have something similar to Amsterdam. And so in our city we have about 500 bridges. Can you imagine this? About got its name. It got the name from the word fountain, because many years ago, at the times of Peter the Great, in the early 18th century, this river, Fountain River or Fontanka, that's how we pronounce it in Russian, gave water for the fountains of the summer gardens. The fountains were destroyed. They were destroyed by one of the floods. The building on the right is one of our hospitals. This is quite an old hospital that appeared in the 19th century. And the building on the left is the University of our trades. So this is where our people who take care of the trains, who build trains. So that's the one of the universities, yes. And now we are approaching the square that is called Hay Square. Hay, you understand? Yes, so that is what was used for horses to eat, yes, for animals to eat. That was the place where this where this hay was sold and was bought, and so that's why the square is called like this, Hay Square. And there are 3 metro stations here. You see, one goes down, and there are two pavilions. So there are two more metro stations. So all in all, 3 metro stations on this square. And this is the square where Moskovsky Avenue starts. So we drove all along Moskovsky Avenue. So the length of it is about 10 kilometers. And now we are approaching one more canal. You see, the buildings are becoming older and older. And this canal is called Griboyedov Canal. You see, it's very curly. Yeah, it goes, it's winding, and it has buildings that date back to the 19th century. Yes, we've seen the buildings that date back to the 20th century, and these ones mainly date back to the 19th century. This is a residential area, so people still live here. The flats, the apartments are pretty old here, but still, if people make some refurbishing, then they can be quite okay, they can be quite nice. And one more river we are approaching is called Moika River or Washing River. So in old days, in the 18th century, it was used, the people used to come to this river and they washed their clothes. They they took water to wash the dishes, and so that's why the river was called like this, Washing River, or in Russian we say Moika, Moika River, Moika. So this is the very, very center of the city. The buildings here, lots of the buildings date back to the 18th century. The monument ahead of us is the monument to one of our emperors, Nicholas I. Is one of our most famous cathedrals. This cathedral is called Saint Isaac's Cathedral, or we say Isaakiyevsky. This cathedral is compared to the Cathedral of St. Paul's in London, St. Peter's in Rome, and it is one of the most famous places for the newlyweds. Have a look. There are brides on the right. You see, brides usually wear white dresses, and we have a tradition. If we see a bride, we make a wish. So if you see 3 brides, you can make 3 wishes. So please, yes, you have an opportunity now to make wishes. I think I can see 3. I can see 1 to the right. Yes, your very beautiful dresses. You see, it's Saturday, so it's very famous day for it. Oh, one more. Okay. Yes. 4. Wow, 4 brides. Great. And we are passing 2 hotels here. Astoria Hotel, Angleterre, Four Seasons Hotel. And so this is the very, very center of the city, and this is where we are having our lunch, or obed. Obed, that's how we say in Russian. Obed.
What is that, Golden?
And this spire in front of us is Admiralty. This is one of the first buildings in the city. That was a shipbuilding industry. Now it's not a shipbuilding industry anymore, but it is one of the military schools. for the government. So here there is the city hall, there is the government. And we are now driving along Voznесensky Avenue. This is one of the streets that goes from the Admiralty. So from the Admiralty there are 3 streets that go straight. Peter the Great, we can say that Peter the Great was the first architect of St. Petersburg, because he planned the whole city. He was the one who planned the roads. He was the one who ordered to make the roads straight. To your right, there comes a cathedral that is called Saint Trinity Cathedral. Saint Trinity Cathedral, look to your right, with a huge dome, huge blue dome with gold stars. This cathedral was made for the soldiers of the army, for the soldiers of the regiment, and so that's why inside the cathedral is very plain. It was not meant for the royal family, it wasn't meant for the emperor, so that's why inside it's very plain. But the outside of the cathedral is quite beautiful, and the dome of the cathedral is also, of course, quite beautiful. And have a look, a Russian Orthodox church on your right. This Russian Orthodox church has a folk name. It is called Ivan the Drop. Ivan or Ivan, that is the most popular male name. Drop means the drop of wine or drop of vodka. The thing is that this church was built by money of the society that tried to struggle with drunkards, and so that's why this church is called so, Ivan the Drop, because the society that struggled against drunkards built this. So my friends, we are now again getting to Moskovsky Avenue, so we are quite close to your hotel. Originally it was a canal, it was a river. This river was called Liga, and so that's why this avenue is called Ligovsky Avenue. But also you can see lots of factories here, so it's partly industrial, partly residential area. You can see a hotel which is called Oktyabrskaya Hotel, and on top of it you can see the hero city Leningrad. And ahead of us on the left hand side you can see a metro station pavilion. Before the revolution there was a church here, and this church was exploded. Front looks like in London, but we just borrowed the idea, and so this is an excursion bus. Tourists and with the citizens of the city, so you can see lots of people here, of course. There are definitely lots of cafes, lots of restaurants here, lots of business centers, cinema halls, theaters, hotels, but still most of these buildings are used as apartment houses. On 4 sides of the bridge you can see horses and horse tamers. So these horses and horse tamers were made by sculptor Claude in the 19th century, and these sculptural groups are all similar, but still they are all different. And we are now on Nevsky Avenue across Fountain River. Column that weighs about 600 tons and stands without So now we are crossing our main river, our main waterway, Neva River. And so this bridge is called Palace Bridge because Winter Palace is on the right hand side. So this green and white building is called the Winter Palace. So if we can, I mean with the traffic rules, if it's possible, we'll make a stop on the speed of Vasilevsky Island for photos, okay? Because I think you would like to take pictures here. So this place is called the Spit of Vasilevsky Island. These two red columns are called rostral columns because they are decorated with rostras. Yes, so these are prows of the ship. There are sculptures at the bottom, two male, two female